Hey everyone, it's Ryder from Skip. I've got a great interview for you today. It's with Aubrey. She's a serial entrepreneur, super successful on YouTube with many videos around car sharing. It was great to hear her story and how she first became a YouTuber. Really interesting backstory we're going to get into. The content she's doing now, which centers around side hustles, passive income, and car sharing. She's one of the top car sharing YouTubers. So we're going to get into that, plus YouTube versus TikTok. Some really interesting insights there from her and some great takeaways for anyone who's an entrepreneur or a small business owner. Be sure to stick around till the end. I've got a couple special announcements. Hope you enjoy. Let's dive in. Aubrey Janik, it's so great to have you join today. And we go back a ways, and you have an amazing YouTube channel. And you've covered for a long time a lot of different topics: sharing economy, passive income, car share. I would love to hear from you what you did before doing videos. Like, were you always entrepreneurial? What was it like before you started doing car share videos? I think those were some of your first videos.
Yeah, it was. And so I've always been super entrepreneurial. It's been, I feel like it sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's just like been in my blood since I was a kid. Is I was that person who on weekends and after school was like trying to come up with business ideas as like a middle schooler and high schooler. And then I like look at myself now as a 28-year-old, and I'm kind of just doing the same thing that I was doing at 14, but just on a much larger and kind of more legitimate scale. But for me, like career wise, I actually started my career in franchising, and I had made money in the stock market in high school. And so I was always very not school oriented. I'm dyslexic. I had horrible grades. I was a horrible student, but I tried really hard, but I just wasn't a good student. And unfortunately for me, I grew up in a family that was very student oriented, not in the sense that like my parents pushed me to go to college, but my sister was a valedictorian at University of Texas. My other sister was like top of her class as well. My father has a master's degree. And so me being somebody that struggled in school, I had a lot of trouble with the fact that I was this failure of a student. And so I had made money in high school and made money in the stock market in high school. And whenever I was in community college, I was kind of faced with the question of, okay, what do I want to do with my life? I know I don't want to go to college. I know I don't want to like do a 9-to-5. So I ended up investing in a franchise that then closed in 2018.
Well, that's amazing. About getting into the stock market in high school. I mean, now financial literacy is all the rage, and I'm not sure videos on getting in. Robinhood certainly didn't exist however many years ago, 10 years ago or so. But what inspired you? How did you first find out about getting into stocks? Was it from your family or someone else?
It was just kind of like a fascination with making money. I think that anybody who's, 16, 17 years old who is like really likes the idea of being wealthy, and especially whenever you're that young, it's like this very kind of vain viewpoint of it. Like, I want to be rich and that's all I want to do. Whereas of course, as you grow and mature, that's not quite the focus anymore. But I just candidly wanted to be rich. And so it was like, all of these rich people are investing in the stock market. I'm going to invest in it too. And I ended up getting really lucky, and I invested in American Airlines right whenever they filed for bankruptcy. And so I invested in American Airlines when they were at 64 cents, and I ended up selling to buy my franchise when they were at like $24. And so I made quite a lot in that period of time. But and I actually really don't invest in the stock market anymore because it was so lucky that I was just like, even looking back at it now, I'm like, I don't know how that happened. It was super lucky, but it was just out of purely curiosity of, wanting to make money and looking at the stock market as the way to do that.
Was there anyone else in your family also doing this, or were you kind of, the outsider there?
I was sort of the outsider, but so whenever I was 16, whenever I started investing, and I couldn't open my own stock account. So my dad opened it for me, and I was like trading under his name, and we kind of set up a competition where we both put $500 in. So I put in my 500 I had made from working, and then he put in 500. And the competition was, okay, let's see who can make the most money from this investing. And then we both ended up investing in American, and the rest was kind of history. I don't know who won. I think he probably did, but it was a pretty good competition regardless.
That's great. I mean, like I mentioned, I feel like, for teens now, people in high school who can open up an account, there's so many more resources now. You just watch, channels like your channel to get that information. But 10 years ago,
yeah,
yeah.
I 100% agree. I think that it's interesting because it's like, I guess it was 12 years ago that I started investing, and about like 9, 10 years ago that I started making a substantial amount, and nobody was investing in the market, and it wasn't this thing that it is today. And I think that in some ways, I think that that might be a bad thing, because I think that like 16-year-olds grow up thinking that getting rich is something that's super easy to do, which I don't think is the case. But I mean, it's just so much easier to become financially literate and literate in investing than it was before. And it's also, I think, more of a normal thing. Like I think it's probably much more common seeing high schoolers talking about crypto or investing or growing their wealth than it was 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned kind of going that's what started the entrepreneurial journey. Maybe, didn't want to work for anyone else. When did you first start? Well, I guess what inspired you to first start creating videos? When was that?
So I guess for the videos, it was one of those things. And it's funny because I think whenever I talk to any YouTuber, this is like almost always the consensus of how they got started. But it just came with like, I was somebody who enjoyed YouTube, and it was just like, I would watch it and I'd be like, I want to do that. And I think with YouTube specifically, there was like this fixation on the silver play button. Like the idea of getting to 100,000 subscribers and at some point getting a silver play button was something that I always really wanted for some weird reason. I don't know why, like even years before I started a YouTube channel. And I felt like, I feel like that's kind of been like a driver over the last few years for sure. But then what kind of finally kicked me into gear of creating videos was I always wanted to do it. And it was kind of like one of those nagging things in the back of my mind. Like, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I'm scared to start it. But I'm envious of these people that have like these channels that they're growing and building. And then finally I just pulled the trigger and I did it.
That's so important. I think so much of your audience, our audience, I mean, YouTubers in general, is like we want to inspire and educate people and tell them what's possible. And you do a lot of great stuff on passive income. I want to talk about that. And also the car share companies as well, because I think you do a lot of that and you became an expert there. But I think so much is inspiring people to take a leap. It's hard work, but to show that you just need to dive in. I know there's a lot of courses out there, but is there any like tips you'd give to someone watching on like, if you want to start a YouTube channel?
Yeah. So
they should think about.
Well, and not to backtrack, but I wanted to mention it along with the point that you just made is that was another factor for sure with me. And when I started the YouTube channel is I didn't want to start a channel on something that I didn't know a lot about. And so I feel like there was this idea in the back of my head for a long time of like, I could start a vlog, but it's like, what am I going to do in a vlog? Like my life is simply not that interesting to start content from scratch with this vlog. Like nobody's going to care. And so then it was the question of what am I an expert in? And really, I wasn't an expert in anything until car sharing came along. And then of course it kind of spun into like other things after that. So that kind of allowed me the opportunity to be an expert and like a thought leader in this one category, which then gave me the confidence to move forward with car sharing content, which is what my content was about before I started doing EIDL and passive income and stuff like that. And then as far as tips go, I mean, I would honestly say just do it. Like I feel like analysis paralysis is a very real thing. And I talk to people all the time who, whether it be, people that ask for me for professional advice or people in my personal life that ask me about YouTube or social media. And so often there's 100 reasons as to why they just can't do YouTube. Oh, I don't have a camera. Oh, I'm too busy. Oh, I'm too that. Oh, I'm too this. There's a dozen, if not way more reasons why somebody can't do something. And I just think that quite honestly, they're just excuses. And so if you're wanting to do YouTube, just put your head down, commit to doing it. And what I did was I said, I'm going to do this for a year. I'm going to commit to doing 2 videos per week for a year. If it doesn't take off, I will reevaluate from there. If I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to keep doing it. And so that's what I committed to. And I think that having that kind of timeline of like, this is what I'm striving for. And if I don't reach it, I'm going to abandon ship. It kind of allowed for me to not just have like this like endless project that I would be plugging away at regardless of its success.
I love that. determination and that goal, to have a goal in mind to push forward to. And there's a couple things you said there that are really interesting, but to go back as well, that to have expertise, that resonates with, when we started doing more videos on the Skip channel, because prior to the pandemic, we were helping people with driver's licenses and passports. Then COVID hit, and all of a sudden 30 million small businesses needed help. And then we figured out EIDL, and that was our path forward. And I know you did a lot on EIDL and PPP, and then it's been a small ecosystem of these EIDL PPP experts. But you're completely right. There's a lot of content out there. Not all content is created equal. So, I'd say, look, it's nice to maybe, if people want to vlog and share their story, that's nice. But also, if you want to think about what can your positive impact be for you, I think you've educated, I don't know how many people, but you have, I think, over 5 million views, but you've educated a lot of people on Turo, on car sharing. I mean, I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the story there?
Yeah. So with car sharing, I got started in car sharing in 2017. And it's like one of those things where it's interesting because like I was a franchisee. I opened up a franchise, it closed in 2018. That experience in general wasn't like the best experience, but that franchise led me to car sharing. So it's like one of those things where I'm like, well, if I wasn't a franchisee, I would have never known about car sharing, because the person who was my marketing manager for this franchise one day was like, yeah, I bought this Mercedes and it's way too expensive for me, but I bought it so that I could I could drive it a couple days a week, and then I could rent it out on Turo the rest of the time. And I had never heard of Turo up until that point. Like, I thought it was a scam. I was convinced that this was like not legitimate, but my marketing manager had convinced me that this thing was worth giving a try. And so at the time I had a Jeep Wrangler that was like my daily driver, and I hated it. I like really didn't like this car. And so I was like, I'm going to list my Jeep on this platform, see how it goes, and just hope for the best. And I vividly remember like the day after it came back on its first rental, I was like, this is going to work. And then I very quickly started brainstorming, okay, how do I get another car? How do I go from here? And I've been doing it ever since. And I have 17 cars as of today. And I have 2 like RVs that I rent out as well. So 19 cars in total. And it's now my fiance runs that part of the business. And so I'm just like very part-time with it at this point, but it's been amazing, like truly a life-changing side hustle.
That's incredible. Do you know if there's anyone else who, a lot of people have fleets like that. And I think the car sharing in Turo certainly is not as popular as home sharing and hosts. As far as I've seen, no one else is covering it as in depth as you. What's that like? And have you talked with the companies themselves?
So I have, and I have not. I think I certainly don't want to be bold enough to say that I'm the biggest like content creator in car sharing, because I think you are. I think I am by subscriber count, but I certainly don't want to. I don't know if that's an assumption that I am in a position to make. I definitely am one of them. And so as far as subscriber count goes and views, I think I am. And there's a couple of other, car sharing groups or car sharing channels out there as well. But so my big bread and butter is Turo specifically. And there are a handful of other platforms as well. Get Around is one I recently did a partnership with, and I'm working with them on like a summer project. And that was and that's one where I'm just giving Get Around a try and kind of reviewing it on the channel. And so that's the first time that I've actually worked with a brand directly. But I get accused a lot of working for Turo, like, and being kind of like a mole for the company. But I've actually like never gotten special treatment for having a very Turo focused YouTube channel. Like, I don't get invited to any like sort of special events. Like, I think I know that they know of me because I've heard it before, but I am not in contact with them on any like larger capacity than any other host.
Yeah, that's interesting. Right. A lot of times just the authenticity, being independent and being, it allows you to be authentic. There are pros and cons of that. But, one of the things that I remember from when we last spoke a year ago or so, you were going away. This goes back to like building such a successful YouTube channel, striving towards the goal that you set, which is 100K subscribers, and then, going from there. Was your consistency that you would go away? I think, correct. So tell me a little bit about that. You had a goal of basically posting every day, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I would love to hear that mindset and why that was important to you and how you feel about that now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a proponent with consistency. Like I just think that like it's so funny because like I say that, but then it's like I've told myself I'm gonna work out 5 days a week and I never do that. But it's like something with like work specifically, it's if I set a goal and I am say, okay, I'm gonna post every day or I'm gonna post 3 days a week, I just don't ever miss. And it's whether it's with YouTube or with all of these other things. And it's like I may like each video certainly wasn't 100% quality. Like there are definitely some days where I just threw a video together for the sake of throwing it together. But I didn't miss a video for, I think it was like a year. It was exactly a year. So exactly 1 year where I didn't miss a single video. And to this day, like through the life of my YouTube channel, 2.5 years, I've been on a consistent posting schedule. And the only time I missed an upload was last year whenever my dog passed away. And so it was the day that she passed, I didn't post because I didn't have one prepared. And then it was business as usual 3 days later. And it was just, I've never missed. And so I think that the consistency has been big because, and this has been my viewpoint forever, and it's stayed my viewpoint, because I think if you can commit to this schedule and it allows for you to just get into a flow, and there's times where you're not going to feel like posting videos. There's times where you're going to get in your own head about something that a commenter said or like the performance of a video, and there's just nothing that you want to do less than record a video. But because you have to stick to that schedule, you have to post it, you have to like take the video, you have to edit it, and then that helps you get out of your funk. So I am a huge proponent of schedules. So I have a schedule with like my TikTok, I have a schedule with my vlog channel, a schedule with my main channel, and I never miss.
That's incredible. Yeah, and probably part of it is the audience, wants to see you, right? They expect you, right? That there's that social pressure of that community that's relying on your information. And certainly that's the case, for us with a lot of the EIDL news, you've built an audience, you're providing a lot of value for folks. And that right, you use the gym comparison, right? So like if there's accountability at the gym, that's why
Yeah, which is probably why I don't go to the gym 5 days a week, because
someone was there expecting you every day.
Exactly. I actually never thought about that until just now, but I think that that's definitely a factor. And there is this like idea that I know as like somebody that consumes YouTube content, if I notice that a poster that I watch quite a lot, like there's a number of channels that I watch that consistently post a couple of days a week or 1 day a week. And whenever they don't post on those days, I notice, and I will oftentimes like look at their page or look at their Instagram and be like, why didn't this person post? And so I think people get into this habit of like, for me, for example, I have channels that I watch on specific days when I eat lunch or when I'm checking email in the morning. And if that channel's not there, I miss it. And then there's also that like aspect of I might fall out of the pattern and think, oh, next week I just won't check. And so it's a matter of kind of developing this almost routine for not only myself, but also my viewers. And also the YouTube algorithm rewards consistency. And so it's proven that if you post more, it helps. Like you can't just post, horrible videos for the sake of putting it out. But I think that being consistent from a YouTube algorithm standpoint helps as well. And it's just a benefit all the way around.
Absolutely. And I'd be curious how that compares to, your understanding of YouTube, versus your understanding of TikTok, right? Obviously the formats are different in terms of what can go viral on TikTok.
It's just, it's funny because so I started TikTok back in November. And I actually have a larger following on TikTok than I do on YouTube, but it's just a different following. It's like, I feel like if you told me to give up one platform today, I would, without skipping a beat, would give up TikTok. Like I have 150,000 followers on TikTok. I get more views. I have more followers, but there's something about YouTube that I really love about the fact that this audience like has gotten to know me, they've gotten to know my fiance, they've gotten to know my business and my life. And I recognize the followers who consistently comment, consistently are engaged with my videos. And it truly does feel like a community. Whereas with TikTok, it's all about snappy content. It's like my niche on TikTok isn't even car sharing. I never talk about it. Like my whole niche on TikTok is I talk about why businesses fail. So it starts off as what happened to Applebee's or what happened to whatever restaurant or business. And then I break down what happened. And so with TikTok, it's very snappy, like you hook them in, but then they're never going to think about you again. And so that community aspect on TikTok is basically non-existent, that I just don't think it's as special. And it's not like a platform that I don't want to say cherish because I feel like it's such a dramatic term, but honestly kind of cherish like I do with YouTube. Like I love YouTube. I love my channel. With TikTok, I just don't feel that same way about.
Completely agree. We should clip this part and post it on TikTok and see.
We should.
No, it's that's really interesting. And, similar approach for us. I mean, we haven't done much on TikTok, but we have done some videos on, in like inspirational business stories, starting a business for $1,000, those catchy things. But it's the same exact thing, like the relationship that you have with your YouTube audience. You use the word cherish, the people trust you because they invest more time. They invest more time. They get to know you. So yeah, it's really interesting because certainly so much of the growth of our company, since we do hands-on support for folks who need funding or who want to start a business. So much of that has just become the trust factor, the influencer factor. This is, I don't know if we talked about this before, but we've had the SBA on a few times, and the first time I was called an influencer was in an SBA invite where they said, "Oh, you're going to be talking with Ryder, who's an influencer." So it's really interesting to have that perspective. Like you can grow an audience if you're consistent, and that's basically.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that there is this like level of responsibility to be very genuine and very transparent on YouTube that I just don't feel the same way with TikTok. Like I was looking at I recently got in touch with the marketing agency that I'm going to work with for TikTok. And they're going to give me like brand deals to do on my TikTok. And I told them, they asked me if I would be interested in doing YouTube brand deals. And I said, no, I don't. I just don't think it's appropriate with my content. I don't want to be shoving ads in front of my audience all the time. But I was like, okay with doing that on TikTok. I'm like, I'm fine with doing this on TikTok. And I think with YouTube, it's the same thing. Like I'm very, very cognizant on which companies I promote, which companies I talk about. And I mentioned a moment ago that I'm working with the company Get Around to do a brand like thing with them for the summer. And I've made a couple videos about this already, so it's not like a secret or anything. But the decision to work with Get Around was one that I was so stressed over, and I like couldn't decide if I wanted to do it. I put so much thought into it. I talked like to my friends and my family about it because I'm like, I'm a Turo content creator. Is it going to come off as disingenuous if I do Get Around? And the idea of coming off as anything but honest was, even if that's not the truth and it's just what's being perceived, is something that I take very, very seriously. And I think that that's really important on YouTube.
Absolutely. A couple of thoughts there. I definitely want to get back to the content and how you've shifted things on your channel.
Yeah.
There was another question I was going to ask, but yeah, let's go there.
Well, you can ask the. I mean, I have all the time in the world, so if you want to ask both questions, feel free to.
How was how has the shift been? From a lot of passive income stuff. I know in the thick of EIDL, in the thick of stimulus, COVID relief, this was, huge interest, huge importance to get the facts right. There's only a handful of folks who are really passionate about like putting accurate information out there. So, but yeah, what's it been like the past year or several months in terms of what you're putting out there?
It was quite a transition. And I know that like, it's been interesting, I think, to look at those core like SBA people. And I think that there was probably 5 to 10 that I had kept an eye on like throughout this last year, like you being one of them. And I know Erica Goldberg was another, Meet Kevin was another, Clear Value Tax was another, where like there was these creators that really made their mark in their little niches at different levels in the SBA and EIDL space. And watching each of us kind of move on into our own content from there has been really interesting. And I think that there's been people that have been more successful at it than others. And I would kind of put myself like right in the middle. Like I certainly don't think it's been a huge hit, but I don't think it's been a failure either. It's just kind of been slow and steady. And so for me, I knew like this time last year, and I think actually I could be wrong, but I think today might be the anniversary of me stopping daily videos, because I no longer do daily videos. I do them 3 days a week. And for me, it was like May and June of last year. I was like, I cannot do daily videos anymore. Like I'm gonna just drive myself into a ditch if I continue doing these daily videos. From like just a burnout perspective, from like coming up with the content, I felt like I was just creating videos to hear myself talk by the end of it. And so I made the shift at that point to say, I'm not doing an SVA video ever again. And I'm going to shift to 3 days a week. And I did that. And I haven't made a SVA video in over a year. And it was definitely a rocky shift. Like I feel like I was getting in my own head quite a bit, like in the late summer, early fall of last year, because I was just like trying to find my footing and find my niche. And I had so many of these followers and subscribers that had followed for SBA and EIDL content that they were no longer getting that. And so I was somebody that had, I think at the time, maybe 60,000 subscribers, and I was getting 500 views. And that's a tough thing to watch, especially because for a year, you're just hitting it out of the park with every video. But it's hitting it out of the park because of the content that you're creating, not necessarily because the audience that you have. And so it was definitely a transition. And I think it's taken, honestly, a full year to gain my footing back, because I'm just now getting to the point where I'm getting decent views again. And so it was a very long investment into that and trying to figure out, okay, what is my niche? What am I going to talk about? What is my thing going to be? And I kind of just dove into car sharing. And so I experimented with like just general business and investing with like a hint to car sharing. Then it went from, side hustles, but then I kind of ran out of ideas with that. And so now it's very focused, and has been for probably the last 4 months, of car sharing and like applicable vehicle news, whether that be like automotive news, whether it be like car prices, stuff that's going on in the car sharing world. So it's very overarching, the auto industry and car sharing. And I really feel like recently in the last 60 days, I'm finally like, okay, this is working out like I hoped it would.
If you had to look at, is that a product of, finding consistency, embracing news, the get around deal, or all of those?
I think definitely not necessarily the get around, just because it's so new. I think that the get around thing, it could end up having a positive impact. I don't think it has yet. Not that it's had a bad one. I think it's just been a combination of sticking. To be honest, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think a part of it is news. Like, I don't think, and I'd be curious, like what your opinion is on this, is I don't think you can grow a channel with just evergreen content, like making a bunch of videos of 5 things to do with Turo, or 5 things, like 5 mistakes to avoid, like this, like evergreen content. I don't think you can grow a channel with. I think it's great filler content and it's good, valuable content, but it's not going to help you grow. And so for me, I started kind of getting into this swing of like 2 videos a week are news, like timely videos for that moment. And then 1 video's evergreen. And if I can avoid an evergreen video altogether for the week, I'll try to. And I think that that's where things have really helped. And so trying to see like, okay, what's going on with the automotive industry? Is there any new car sharing news? Is there any new, like anything new going on that I could cover? And that's really helped.
That's really interesting observation, kind of the news, which puts time pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also that sense of urgency, right? If there's big car news, you want to cover it and be known as a great source of information. That's difficult. Yeah, it's evergreens. You're right. Time will tell. For example, I remember one of the very first videos we put up on our channel, because we'd helped tens of thousands of folks take their road test, their actual behind the wheel test.
And now it's like one that's huge on your channel. I think
it's the largest one. It has 1 million views. And it was, I was talking with one of our concierges who would help people around the Bay Area take the road test. And we're like, oh, let's go over to the Oakland DMV and shoot a video. And it's me with a very old model iPhone shooting it. And it certainly didn't do anything the first couple of years, but now it has over 1 million views. So,
And
maybe.
I guess, yeah, and I guess you're right, is because as I'm thinking about it, I take back my statement, because that statement isn't accurate. You can grow your channel with evergreen videos, because one of my best videos is how to sign up for Uber, which like I'm not even on Uber. So I just kind of made the video. I was like, guy, I like wasn't an Uber driver and am not an Uber driver now. And so I don't know why I decided to make that video, but I took a user through the process of signing up for Uber and getting approved. And that video is one of my best videos as well. And so I guess the statement of, you can't grow a channel with evergreen content isn't accurate, but it doesn't give you that hit that I think that we all need to see to continue with YouTube, because those evergreen content videos are very slow burning.
Well, that's a great, like, just broad lesson in general. And, we take why is TikTok popular? It's these quick hits. You're getting quick rewards. You're quickly getting views, subscribers. Now, it might not be creating the foundation of people getting to know you, investing time, but it's the quick hit. And with the YouTube more newsy videos, you're seeing in your metrics right away, oh, this is rating really highly. And you put out one that might be evergreen and it's like no one's watched it for 5 days, but
a year later it could just pop
a year later,
off.
YouTube has a way of doing mysterious things.
Yeah. So you're 100% right. And so I think that it's I guess to go back to your original question of like, what do I attribute the like kind of steady growth to? And I think it does just come kind of down to consistency and choosing that sub niche of because that was another issue that I was running into, and not to like deviate away from this question too much, but there was a point in time where I was running into this issue, and it probably isn't even an issue, but I tend to look at like comments that are even slightly negative and I magnify them in my mind. So in my mind, I viewed this as a real issue where people would come to my channel and say, hey, I come to your channel for side hustle content, but I actually don't like your Turo content. And now this is all you make. Like, I have no reason to subscribe to you. And I got a number of comments like that. And I think like going kind of shuffling between like side hustle once a week, like investing 1 day a week, and then Turo 1 day a week, it was just too broad. And so I think niching down into like this one segment where regardless of what you're interested in, you probably will find a applicable video at least 2 days a week really helped me grow, because it just like a subscriber didn't have to go in and say, oh, Aubrey's talking about side hustle, or Aubrey's talking, because I do still talk about side hustles, but Aubrey's talking about the stock market again today. I hate when she talks about the stock market. I'm not even going to view.
Yeah. Something for everyone. I mean, it's tough, if you're doing what you enjoy and what you like talking about, then that's what matters, and people pick up on that energy. So
yeah, which is true.
Yeah, especially now with the economy. I mean, certainly people might not want to follow economic news, but probably they should be. And what better way? So, is there anything that I didn't ask that maybe would be good for our audience to know about you, your channel, what you have planned over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. So I have a lot planned, that's for sure. And so I've been, I don't want to sound boring, but just kind of more of the same, to be honest, is I'm always looking for just new ways to improve my content. I mean, my content is like, to an extent, like what you see here, it's me sitting at a desk. And so for the most part, like, you can only make that content so exciting. And a lot of it's just dependent on what's going on, but just, continuously improving and continuously posting on my channel, like that goal of 100,000 subscribers is still what I'm pretty laser focused on. So until that happens, I definitely won't be letting up anytime soon. And then as far as like car sharing goes, we had a goal of getting to 20 cars last year. We didn't reach that. And so this year, the goal is to get to 25 cars, and we should be able to make it. So that's exciting. And then and the next, year, we're looking to get our dealer's license so that we can start buying cars from auctions. We of course have my vlog channel with my fiance and partner that we do. And so continuously kind of improving that content and trying to build that audience into something. And so, yeah, a lot of kind of new and exciting things in the works. And I'm super just happy to be in the position that I'm in.
That's incredible. Yeah. I think it's a great lesson in, the importance of knowing about different options. I mean, there's been lots of different passive income side hustles over the years. You know, I think it's really fascinating that, you know, the stock market story from high school, and then how that's like, that was a path that worked well for you 10 years ago, but now you're like, oh, you've invested in another really important area and I know, I mean, between hosting and car sharing, you know, when it comes to passive income, those are two really important areas. And both of those companies started, I believe, during the last recession, 2008 is when
They did.
Airbnb started. So now, especially for folks, I mean, when we look ahead 3 months, 6 months, we're getting we're getting news every day on inflation and the looming recession.
Mm-hmm.
I really think, you know, hosting more, car sharing more, basically people will want to become more aware of what can I do to make an extra 100, $500 a month, to start small. Well, I guess, what was it like with your first car? What was that passive income monthly with your first car?
It was pretty good. I think, and I can't recall exactly, but it was definitely in the $500 to like $800 per month of like gross revenue. And then I had the monthly car payment and the insurance to pay off. Now my business model is I just buy cash cars. So none of them have payments associated with them, but back then I did. And so I think I made an additional like probably 300 to 400 per month after expenses, which is huge. I mean, it's a huge add-on for anybody who's struggling to make money, and you scale it up from there. And we've learned that, like, as time has gone on over the last 5 years, our not only gross revenue has grown per car, but our profit margin has grown as well, because you learn, you know, what can you do to save costs? How can you make sure that you're not spending money on unnecessary things? Turo has become just, I mean, I am constantly swamped with cars. Like if we had the resources, not even the resources, if the used car market was like half normal and like car prices weren't to the moon right now, I feel very confident that I could have 50 cars and have them booked out 95% of the time.
Wow.
Like the demand with Turo is insane. And so for somebody who is looking for that way to make $300 to $600 per month more, depending on, you know, the type of car it is and where you're located, Turo is a real viable option. And a lot of people think it's a scam because it sounds too good to be true. But there are a few things that I believe so strongly in as Turo. And I just think it is, if done correctly, a truly life-changing gig.
That's incredible. And I guess, you know, I don't know if you want to tell people the market that you're in. You don't want, I mean, maybe you've
Dallas,
got, maybe
it's fine. I mean, Dallas is a big city. You have to hone in quite a lot to see exactly where I am, but I'm in the DFW area.
Yeah. And, you know, certainly in, you know, the largest cities in the US, right, when people have the choice of ownership versus not ownership, or they're coming in from out of town and it's competing with the high rental car prices. It's been a good model, and it will continue to be a good model for consumers, and then for hosts, right? That's the term that
correct. Or like guests and hosts. And I mean, I 100% agree. And I think that it's something that I hear a lot from people is, well, you're in a large city. And I'm really not. Like, Dallas is, of course, is a big metroplex, but I'm not in the heart of Dallas. I'm 30 minutes away from Dallas. And so, like, I'm in a definition of a suburb. And so a lot of people will think, like, you have to be close to an airport. You have to be in a tourist destination. You have to be in a large city. And with the Dallas area, it's really none of those things. Like, sure, people do travel to the Dallas area for whatever reason, but it's not a tourist destination, and it's not a large city in the sense that we have, or specifically where I am, where we have people walking around or going areas where they would want to rent a car. And it's not any of these things. And so you're looking at those people, and that's where I think it truly is so great, because it's also, to a degree, recession proof, depending on which cars you rent out, because about 70% of all my rentals are locals that have their car in a shop and they need a car to get from point A to point B. And that's going to, in my opinion, increase over the next year or two whenever people are a little bit more strapped for cash.
That's so interesting. That was going to be my follow-up question, kind of. And I had no idea it was that high for that use case for locals needing.
It varies depending on the time of year, but 60 to 70% is very consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, obviously, no one wants to see an economic downturn, but there are some models that thrive when you know, cash becomes more important, people thinking about how do I save or get an extra 200, 500 there. So yeah, probably for everyone watching, if they're thinking about this, you know, maybe start with one car. You don't need to start with the
Yes.
fleet like Aubrey, but
Well, and I started with my own personal car. And so that's always what my recommendation is like, if you have a car that is eligible to list on Turo, do that. And for me, whenever I was starting out, I had a family member had a car that I borrowed from them, and I was close to my work at the time, and so I could walk or ride my bike if I needed to. But it was my Jeep was my real only mode of transportation, and I decided to try it with that. And so I recommend for anybody, if you want to give Turo a try, do not buy a car for that purpose. Like, use your own car, see if you like it, give it a try for a month, and then from there decide, okay, is this something I want to do, or is it not something? Because it's not for everybody. I mean, I'm not oblivious to the downsides of it. There is an inherent risk with renting out your car. There is like a level of work that's involved with it that I think some people wouldn't like and some people wouldn't be prepared for. And I think that kind of month trial run is important to figure out if that's a business for you.
that's great advice. And I know, and we're going to link to some of your videos, and I think you have a masterclass on car sharing as well, right? So
Yes,
we'll link to that as well. So of course, anyone who's interested, I mean, this is probably the number one source you're going to get. So you can save, you've condensed several years of knowledge, I'm sure, in that course. So
definitely, I definitely have. And so I think I mean, of course I'm biased because it is my course. And realistically, if you wanted to know about car sharing, like, all of the information in the course is also on my YouTube channel, but it's just a matter of, do you want to find the content on YouTube versus just having it kind of spoon fed to you in the course. But I think if you're interested in car sharing, I think the course is a really good piece of information to digest.
People can do both. And so Aubrey, thank you so much. And it's so great to catch up and hear about how things have changed. Would love to have you on, you know, in 6 months, do
of course,
another,
I'd love to be here.
see how things have changed, you know, when you get to that 100K mark, but more importantly, just, the things you've learned. I do love the trust that you've built among your user base and your audience is so important. So be curious to see if that changes, what your perception is in 6 months of your YouTube fans versus your TikTok fans. So can't wait.
I'll be interested as well. And so I appreciate you having me, and I'd love to reconnect in 6 months or whenever you feel fit. But I definitely will pay attention to that, because as my TikTok is growing, I'm interested to see how that relationship grows, if at all. Who knows? Maybe it'll just stay the same.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Aubrey. Can't wait to see you, see how things progress, and see you next time.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Aubrey. Huge thank you to her for coming on. We can't wait to check in with her in a few months. And of course, go check out her channel and her course, especially if you're interested in car sharing, everything Turo and relay rides related. Also, if you want one-on-one funding or business help to help you start your business, grow your business, or fund your business, or all three, definitely click the link in the description or go to helloskip.com/join. We would love to help you there. If you're interested in some more conversations, go check out some of these other videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.